Broncos country, it is game day. We're going to forego the normal intro that we normally do and get right into it. David and I, if you listen to the pregame podcast, disagree a little bit on the importance of this game. Now, we found a middle ground during the podcast, so we could talk about that for a second. But I still feel like this is a pretty important game, especially as I'm watching the Cincinnati game as they're winning their game against Tennessee. The whole concept of, Indy and Cincinnati went out and they do a bunch of good stuff, and they play us both twice. So if Indy wins this and then they go on and win, now we have a much different playoff. This is one of those games that we win it and we are just that much more in the driver's seat. Let's go and take it to the Colts today, huh?
Oh, absolutely, Jared. I don't want that to be my view to be interpreted as anything other than we got to beat the Colts. Let's go out there and take care of business against the Colts. Now, I will say, as we look around the AFC and kind of take a zoom at the playoff picture, Jared, Houston at least taking care of business against the Dolphins today. Dolphins, that was a kind of a big threat to Denver's playoff possibilities. If they won out and Denver goes 10-7, both teams end up 10-7, and Miami would have more conference wins at that point. So in that scenario, Denver's out of the playoffs, even if they do go 10-7. If they lose today, they're at 8 losses. So hopefully, Texans.
Well, there's still a chance. They're down by 8. They have the ball. They're driving.
And there's a full quarter left. Anything could happen.
Yeah, there's a full quarter. But however, Cincinnati and Indy are both in the exact same scenario, right? If they can win out, again, playing us, both of them, if they can win out, they would have the tiebreaker on us. So it'd be kind of difficult. So we need to, if we take this game, we're in that much more of a driver's seat. Than the only person, if Miami loses today, that we have to worry about is Cincinnati. And guess what? We get to see them.
That's it. And it's interesting too, Jared. I saw this kind of schedule nugget about the AFC. I think the top 3 teams in the AFC right now are all playing. It's not maybe the top 3. I think it's Kansas City, Pittsburgh, and Baltimore all playing 3 games in 11 days. And the Broncos are about to play 2 games in 5 days. It's really interesting. There could be a lot of shuffling in this AFC playoff picture in the next few days. Chargers also playing 2 games in 5 days since they're playing the Broncos on Thursday night. So yeah, right. It could be really interesting to see what the AFC playoff picture looks like after these next couple of days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, guys, thank you guys for tuning in. Appreciate you. This is the Tailgate Talk, the Denver Broncos Tailgate Talk, brought to you by Bourbon, Broncos, no BS, here at Orange Weekly. We're going to be talking about this upcoming game. Game starts in approximately an hour. Kickoffs here in about an hour. And we want to get your guys' input on what you guys think this game is going to look like and what your worries are. We'll recap. David and I did the pregame the pregame podcast. Make sure you guys are downloading on whatever you listen to your podcast and listen to us on the way to work on Friday or on Saturday when you have some downtime. We're gonna discuss a little bit of that here today. But make sure you guys are hitting up the comments. We want to hear what you guys think. We want to hear what your guys' thought process is on this. Let me just kick it off right away, David. The biggest thing that I think that we brought up in the pregame podcast, I think is the most important, is Anthony Richardson. The Colts kind of fumbled the whole starting quarterback situation at the beginning of the season, benched him because he wasn't playing well, then brought him back in because I forget who the backup wasn't playing great. It wasn't Flacco.
It was Joe Flacco. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, wasn't playing great. So they brought Anthony Richardson in. Since Anthony Richardson has been back, there has been 8 to 10 runs designed for Anthony Richardson, like options or just, quarterback up the middle, whatever it is. We need to find a way to stop a running quarterback, and we have not been good at that this year.
Yeah. Well, and it's going to be an interesting case of how do the Broncos play it? Do they go and really kind of play their same style of defense and, try to rush a lot at Anthony Richardson, get him confused in the pocket? But, that's a dangerous game because if you don't wrap him up when you're back there and you have hands on him and he gets out, then he's one of the most dangerous guys in the entire league. It's going to be really interesting to see if they go that route or if they play it safe, try to rush 4 as often as possible and keep guys at the intermediate level to come up and make a tackle. Interesting to see how that plays out. And it's such a key part of their run game too, right? We talk about Jonathan Taylor being, a really good player, but having Anthony Richardson just makes it so dangerous, and they have so many ways to attack you with that facet of their game.
Yeah, specifically on the left side of that line, we could talk about that with Quentin Nelson over there, and then Rain Man I know it's not how he's pronounced it. Bernard Raymond playing decently well on that left side of the line. Any options, stuff that goes that way, sweeps, tosses, fake tosses up the middle. Like they really have a lot in their arsenal to be able to beat us on the ground. We just need to play gap sound defense. And I think what's going to happen is you're not going to see these, exotic blitzes that I think we're used to the Broncos kind of dealing up. We're going to just need to stay gap sound to make sure that there's nothing that's getting broken up in the middle there. Big game for Strnad and Barton today. We need big games from those inside linebackers.
For sure. And if you do see them throw some exotic blitzes at him, if you do see that from Vance Joseph, I think it'll be a sign that they think they've got enough in the secondary to keep Anthony Richardson from throwing those big deep ball bombs on them, and they think they can muddy up the pocket on him and maybe confuse him into making some bad throws. I think he has more turnover worthy plays than any other quarterback in the NFL. I know he fumbles a lot. That's the kind of the downside of having Anthony Richardson running quite a bit is the injury factor. He got hurt last year on a design quarterback run. I believe he got injured this year once already on a design quarterback run. And then, of course, like I said, he fumbles a lot. So it's really, really interesting to see what the deal is going to be there, what kind of Anthony Richardson shows up today in that regard.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to say, Gary, hey, how's it going? Thanks for joining us. Michael, thanks for joining us. Sarah joining us from Virginia. Never get to see the games. Loves the hats. We always love the old school logo here at Orange Weekly. Thank you for joining, for listening to the Scoop. So, yeah, this is the Tailgate Talk. We're just going to talk about what's coming up in this game here in about an hour. So post your questions, comments, concerns, or what you feel like you're going to see in this game, and we'll talk about it for sure. Obviously, on offense, that's the biggest deal. We need to see, you said it from day one, the whole goal of this season is to see if Bo Nix is the guy.
Yeah.
And barring some sort of crazy setback, he is the guy that we're about to build this team around. And everybody in Broncos country believes we're here for it. We're ready for it. But this is another game to prove himself. He did very well in the Cleveland game, right? He kept up with that high powered offense of Cleveland. Our defense getting 2 turnovers definitely helped. But here's another chance. Here's another chance against a defense who's been playing okay and secondary that has a decent corners and a safety. But there's ways to take advantage of that.
Well, and it's going to be interesting. Williams got a point here that it's very, very windy, and I want to see if that slows down the Broncos' passing attack at all, because I think there are going to be opportunities against this Colts defense. They play so much zone. Cover 3 is kind of the Gus Bradley special. He plays a lot of cover 2 this season specifically, but still a zone defense, and that's something that Bo Nix has been really good against this year so far. So it feels like there's going to be opportunities there. Even with the wind, I don't think that he's going to be afraid to throw it into that wind. I think he's going to be able to try and carve up that Indy defense a little bit. Jared, I don't want to start an argument. I really don't. But what do you think is going to go right, if anything does go right, in the Broncos' run game today?
I've been saying it all season. The reason why it took me a while to realize it, probably about halfway through the season, to realize what we're doing with our running backs. And what it is you have 2 downhill runners, Javonte Williams and Estime, are both downhill in between the tackles, going to break a couple tackles, physical runners. And then you guys have a guy like Jaleel McLaughlin, who is a speed guy. So when you're playing against a physical defense, you want to use the outside guy, Jaleel McLaughlin, to get to the outside and use the speed, because usually the physical teams are a little bit less speedy. And then vice versa, right? If you're playing a speed defense, Kansas City, us, right? We have a speed defense. Then you're going to want to go in between the tackles and run in between tackles. This team is a physical defense. You're going to see Jaleel McLaughlin probably get most of the carries, and you're going to see him being successful if he can stay healthy. And that's what we're going to see. I think Jaleel McLaughlin is going to be our go-to for most of our run games. But yeah, you're going to see us trying to establish the run game specifically at the very beginning to open up the pass. And I think that's just something you've seen from the Broncos and a rookie quarterback and just the way that we do business is try to establish the run game to make them respect it. And then we end up throwing up over the top. So that's kind of what I see. I see Jaleel McLaughlin on the outside and maybe, tossing it to the outside, make them spread out a little bit more and then opening up the inside. So it'll be interesting to see. But I want to see the Broncos establish the run game. It's been very difficult this year for us on the run game aspect of it. But I think we can do it.
Well, in the teeth of that Colts run defense is definitely DeForest Buckner and Grover Stewart there in the middle
Yeah.
of that defense. So yeah, I'm agreeing with you. I would not be surprised to see them try to stretch those edges on that run defense of Indianapolis. Chris, thank you. Welcome to the show. Absolutely, Team Puffball believes, as does Team Visor. We have united on this, but
Yes.
it is one of few issues. Sarah, just a quick recap on the playoff implications today. We want the Bengals to lose. They are winning at the Titans today. No surprise there. Right now, I believe the Dolphins are still down to the Texans, which we were hoping for the Texans to win in that game. And, there are other games with implications for us this week. Buccaneers over the Chargers. But outside of that, it's really just Broncos over Colts is what we're rooting for, obviously, the most. So those are the big ones that you want to pay attention to other than Denver today.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep, just as we go on through this tailgate talk, I'll keep the game up, the game cast on. I'll let you guys know. But Miami has the ball. They're driving down. They're in on the 25-yard line, looking like they're getting ready to score. They're down by 8 with 12 minutes left in the fourth quarter. So we'll keep an eye on that as we go forward. If the Houston Texans can beat the Miami Dolphins, it kind of takes them out of the playoff kind of picture thought process. And the only one that we'd really have to worry about is Cincinnati and obviously Indy today, which we get a chance to hopefully take them out of the playoffs today by taking the W.
Yeah, absolutely monstrous swing, guys. I'm sure you've seen the stat posted a lot of places, but we're just going to repeat it here for real quick. If Denver wins today, most models have them with a 90% chance or better to make the playoffs. If they lose today, it goes down to between 40 and 50%.
50.
So, yeah, and kind of vice versa for the Colts. It's a really big swing for them as well. So, man, I'm sorry. Just to break in, I'm watching Kansas City, Cleveland right now, and Jameis Winston just threw, I think, his third interception of the day. It has been absolutely, yeah. It's been wow. Anyway, back to Broncos football here. Yeah, it's a huge game, and we talked about it a little bit to start the show, guys. But you saw Adam Schefter post it today, how it's the biggest Broncos game in 8 years or something like that. And look, I get it. From the point of view of getting to the playoffs, yes, that's objectively true. They've never been closer to a playoff game in the last 8 years than at this moment, really. That being said, Jared, we talked about it on the pregame podcast. I don't like this narrative. I would much prefer us be talking about the narrative of Bo Nix is the Denver Broncos guy when we had to sit through that. The talking heads going through the sixth quarterback drafted nonsense after the draft, and he's got a physical ceiling, all these tools, but how high could he really go, et cetera, et cetera. We have not seen Bo Nix's final form. Let me guarantee you this now, ladies and gentlemen. Sure. You can put more pieces around him. You can give him more just experience in the league and more time in Sean Payton's system. He's going to continue to grow as he's grown before our eyes this season. I believe that so firmly. So, it's just a bonus to me. The idea of playoffs at all is just a bonus to me right now. And it's so cool that we're in this position. Obviously, I want to go all the way. Now that we're here at this point, let's go. But to me, the biggest question of the year has already been answered, and I don't really need to talk about the biggest game of the last 8 years in that context, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, I feel like you're trying to set yourself up to not be disappointed. And it's okay. I'm okay with that. All right. I'm
really just playing with house money here, Jared. I'm not dead inside. And if we lose, I still won't be dead inside. I promise you. I'm in such a good place right now with this team that I've not been in for years.
Yeah, no, it's great. Obviously this is a big game. And then the next big game is going to be the Cincinnati one. And then the next one is going to be their first playoff game. And it's just going to get better, which I think the concept here is that we haven't been in real football at this point in 8 years. You know what I mean? Like we haven't been in a position where it's like, oh man, like these are some big games going ahead. Talking about possible, none of these are playoff games. Right. We still have a chance if we lose. We still have a chance if we lose Cincinnati. Like, there's options out there, but it's nice to be, and it's nice to talk about.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. All right. Now, Jared, here's one thing. We haven't really talked about the Broncos defense today at all, but it's kind of a big story as far as inactives for this game. We talked a lot about who was going to be getting the most run. Are they going to put Levi Wallace back out there because he's a veteran, even though he got torched on Monday night? Are they going to go with Damari Mathis, a guy who they have liked over the years, but hasn't really seemed to put it all together quite on the field? Or do they go with the rookie, Chris Abrams-Drain, who has had a really promising preseason, but is still a fifth-round rookie? And we got that. The answer is at least not going to be Levi Wallace today, right, Jared?
Yes. Yeah, healthy scratch, it looks like, for Levi Wallace, as the injury report / the inactive list came out. Levi Wallace is a healthy scratch. The other cool thing I saw, kind of transition, we'll talk about that in a second, just to mention it. It looks like Moss was back playing pretty healthy. They showed a video of him in pregame. He's not playing for this game, but kind of showed a video of him moving around and being able to play again. So it looks like we might hopefully have him back for that Cincinnati game, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And I think that's huge for the Denver Broncos, specifically the Denver Broncos defense. But yeah, I think you're going to see Chris Abrams-Drain. We saw him come in at the end of that Cleveland game and play pretty well. Once Levi Wallace was just not working out, they tried something new. And he came in and did his job, and he did what he needed to do. So I think that you want to give that rookie a chance to show what he has going into next year. Levi Wallace is a veteran, so going on the inactive list kind of, sells his what's the word I'm looking for? His fate with the team, I guess.
I guess.
Yeah. So as a veteran, kind of getting put on an active list this late in the season, that kind of sells his fate of the team, but I think you're going to see a lot of that rookie back there, and I hope we do see him, and I hope he does well, because now we have a third guy that we can trust in that backfield.
Absolutely, yeah, that would be really, really important. And yeah, Jared, what do you think about this? With the way you saw Levi Wallace moving after that sprained MCL 2 or 3 weeks ago, I guess it was now. Do you support sitting him against the Chargers, or do you support putting him in if he looks healthy? I mean, if he's healthy enough to play, he'll play. But I mean, just on that short week, it's such a tough sell to me.
Yeah, that's hard, and obviously that's MCLs are one of those that are like really easily re-aggravated. Once you do have a sprain, it's kind of easy to bring that back up. But it really is going to come down to the docs and the coaching staff and feeling how comfortable he feels with it over anything else. But yeah, having him come back for next week, that Sunday game. The Sunday game I think is kind of what we're looking at, because this Thursday's game, such a short turnaround. We'll see where he's at.
Yeah, and you got to go on the road too. I'm with you. I kind of support sitting him down until that. And it guys, just a little bit of look forward to that Cincinnati game. Now there's chatter that it might get flexed into the Saturday window. You know how they do Saturday afternoons when there's no college football anymore.
Right.
Broncos might get flexed to that to be on a national window against the Bengals. So yeah, having Riley Moss available for that game would be a pretty big deal, going against T. Higgins and Jamar Chase there. So yeah, I'm with you. The Chargers passing attack, I know they've got Justin Herbert, but it's Ladd McConkey and ... And so, I don't know that you're one Riley Moss away from winning or losing that matchup on defense versus the Chargers, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I'll bring this up, Andrew, because I think this is a good point. Joining us from the YouTube, Abrams did get burned against the Browns. Now, I feel like it's a little different, and I hate it because it is the world that we live in with the NFL. Like, kind of give him the rookie shrug of like, dude does not have a lot of play time. He got thrown in there against a team that was already been dicing us up. He had a little bit of a trip up and got burnt, but I think with a little bit more playing time, because you saw some other plays where he's crashing down the ball and he's being able to. I think he had a pass breakup. So give him the chance, give him the opportunity to get out there, get some play time in some real legitimate football. Like I said, we've talked about it multiple times. We're looking at playoffs, and this is a playoff type team, a team that's still in the hunt. And I think the rest of our games for the rest of this year are all teams that are either in the hunt or in the playoffs. We're not playing anymore 2-10 teams. Right. So all these are real games. They're legitimate games that they're going to get the good experience for. And I think this is a good chance. Again, is it a must-win game? Not really. Is it a nice-to-win game? Obviously. But it is a game that if he goes out there and plays well, we now know what we have going forward. And I like the kid. I think Chris Abrams is playing well, and I think with more snap time and playing in that defense will be good.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm excited to see what he can do. It's always cool to be in that place too, right? To have these young players from your draft class that you're like, oh man, if this guy works out, he could really be a foundational cornerstone of this franchise, just like Riley Moss might end up being now. It's looking really likely that he is. And it kind of goes like, I don't want to get on too much of a George Payton tangent, but there's been a lot of chatter as to whether or not he's a really good GM in this league or not. And I think it's a really good sign for him that some of these draft picks for Denver are working out. Your Riley Mosses and this draft class in particular.
Let's talk about this draft class. Obviously, Bo Nix, right?
Mm-hmm.
Coming up and getting Bo Nix at 12, huge help for us. Outside linebacker Jonah Ellis has been a huge game change. That was our third round.
Second most sacks for any rookie or something like that.
Yeah, Troy Franklin has had his struggles, but he's getting a lot of play time and he's been out there. He's gotten some good targets. He's gotten a couple touchdowns this year. Now we got cornerback Chris Abrams-Drain, who's now going to be a starter. Audric Estime, who we've seen the explosiveness out of him. And then obviously our 7th round pick and probably our favorite outside of Bo Nix, Devon Vele, just coming out and just being the guy. And let's talk more about him because, man, I just love what I'm seeing out of Devon Vele with the absence of Tim Patrick, and love that Tim Patrick's doing well over in Detroit. Love that for him. I'm a huge Tim Patrick fan if you've been following the show for a while. But yeah, Devon Vele coming in and being that kind of, and I've given you guys so much crap on the show as being the Tim Patrick replacement, right?
Patrick.
The big tall guy that no matter where you throw the ball, he's going to be able to catch it. But just having himself a season as a rookie, and that entire rookie class, every single person in there has made an impact on this team in some way, shape, or form. And that just shows what Peyton's been doing, and it's been great.
Yeah. It shows you the potential of, like, what if they do it again? What if they go get one more like that this year? And, they have all of their picks. They have a 1st round pick and a 2nd round pick for the first time in I don't know how many years. And you go load up with some talent, man. I know we're talking about weapons, tight end, running back, wide receiver. I would love to draft some young interior defensive linemen or some young more young offensive linemen highly. Like I want to build in the trenches so badly with this team because I feel like we've seen it over and over again how that with the Eagles, with teams like the Steelers, that's how you just have long-term success over decades, not over seasons, right?
Well, and the Broncos, again, setting themselves up, signing left tackle Garrett Bowles to a long-term deal. That was kind of the one spot with him being on his final year of his contract that we were really worried about. And now we don't really have a worry specifically anywhere in the draft, specifically in the 1st round, best player available. And there's just so much more that we can do in this draft class. And we'll talk a lot more of that after the playoffs. Normally, this is weird for us, David. Like normally at this point of the season, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about draft classes.
It's draft season. Yeah. Right. Absolutely. Allison, good question. We just talked about this right before you came on. We don't think Riley Moss is probably going to come back. He does look like he's moving well. It looks like he's recovering from that MCL injury pretty well. But I think the team probably plays itself going into a short week, plays it safe and saves him for Cincinnati that next week. Jerry, thanks so much for showing up. Team Puffball coming in. Jared, you had something?
I was just going to say for Riley Moss, we didn't mention this. If we do end up losing this game, it might expedite him coming back for the Chargers game. And that's a real possibility. I don't want to think about that because I think, we take the win here and then we don't need him back right now. We're only kind of really need that Cincinnati game to win to be the playoff team. But yeah, we'll see what happens as it goes forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. One game at a time. Now, Jared, what do you think this game, do you think that the Broncos have an advantage? I can't remember which pod. I think it was the Athletic Football Show I was listening to yesterday that said Anthony Richardson's one of the worst quarterbacks in the league at throwing against man coverage. And what do the Broncos like to play quite a bit of? And, they pointed out not only do they like to play man coverage, but they play man coverage really well, even with Riley Moss not in there. I think it's a team that if you figure out that second corner position, we're going to be more sticky and more able in man coverage than we were against the Browns last week. Do you see that as being an advantage against what the Colts will try to do through the air?
Yeah, oh, for sure. And it's tough too. And that's why Anthony Richardson's been so successful on the ground, is because it's hard to play man coverage and defend a running quarterback with a decent running back in the backfield as well. When you have two good running backs in the backfield, it's harder to play man coverage because now you have to put a man on the quarterback as opposed to a typical man coverage. So you're going to only be able to rush maybe 3 or 4 as opposed to whatever it is, right? And make sure that you contain them on the outside. So yeah, I think we're going to go back to our roots and go man coverage. Hopefully that our defensive line can get pressure. We've talked about, I don't know, how many sacks are we away from 50 on the season? I think we lead the league in sacks. Defensively, we'll look it up real quick. Yeah. But I know that we're pretty close to 50. If we can end up with our 50 in this game, that'd be awesome. And I think that our defensive line can do it. I think we have some really good guys on the defensive line, as David was talking about. Possibly, I'm just going to pull them up real quick. Possibly drafting interior defensive lineman. We still have really good interior. Malcolm Roach has really been stepping up in all of his for this. So we're 3 away, looks like.
Yeah.
Allison says.
Yeah. 47 on the year. And yeah, we can come at them in waves. I'm really interested to see what the right side of that Colts offensive line looks like. They thought maybe they were going to get their center, Ryan Kelly, back this week off of IR. He does not get activated. They're also going to be missing Braden Smith, their starting right tackle, I think for the rest of the season. They're having to sit him down now. So yeah, I would be really interested to see if they can find any matchups against that right side of the offensive line to exploit. And it's part of the struggles are on Richardson, but I also think that this Colts receiving core, there's just not a ton of guys who are really stand out at beating man. There's no Jerry Jeudy on this team for sure. Right. A.D. Mitchell is a guy who can beat you deep with that burner speed if you let him. He's the rookie, but he's not somebody that has developed a great deal of chemistry with Anthony Richardson so far this year. So it really is going to be a little bit of a different passing challenge than we saw last week against the Browns, Jared.
Yeah, and it's crazy too. All according to Pro Football Focus, all their wide receivers are A graded. And you got Michael Pittman, who's always been, since 2020, been an absolute standout for them. Josh Downs is, I think, their leading receiver this year, as that slot guy. So that's another thing that we need to worry about is what does that slot look like for us? Is McMillan going to be able to stop that? I think he can. I think he's proven himself as a very good slot corner. And then you have Alec Pierce on the other side, who, 6'3", 211, third year in the season, third year in the league. It can do things, but I think that we have a chance to stop that. This is not one of those wide receiving cores that we're really. We've played much worse, right? Much better wide receiving cores in the past, and yes, Jerry Jeudy went off for like 400 yards. I'm exaggerating, but right, but. I don't think this is a team that can do that. I don't think this is a team that's going to be able to find that guy and just be able to continue targeting him over and over again.
Yeah. Man, that's interesting. All right. Well, so we've got not one, but 2 quarterback changes, it looks like, in this Chiefs-Cleveland game. Jameis Winston benched, and it looks like Carson Wentz is going to go in. Just looks like Mahomes is a little bit too hurt to go in. This seems like one of those Mahomes injuries to me. It feels like if this was the AFC Championship game, Mahomes would just be limping in there and limping out of there and doing the exact same things that he always does on the field. So I would hazard a guess that we don't see Mahomes sit down for any time with this injury, but we'll see. Jared, how you got the game cast up? It looks like Miami has the ball, but it's 4th and 19. So yep. It's with 3 minutes left to go. It looks like the Texans have a chance to close that one out. I couldn't see. I don't remember if Mo Alley-Cox is in, Andrew. I do believe Michael Pittman is playing. Josh Downs also active. He had been struggling a little bit with an injury, so there was a little bit of a question if he was going to play. But I know he practiced all week, so it does look like he's active.
Yeah, let me see if I can pull up the inactive for Indianapolis real quick.
Okay. And guys, just generally speaking, I don't know about everybody watching. This feels so different to me. Like a Broncos team that gives me the confidence they're going into games that they should win and that I think they're going to win. That's a really different feeling for me. I don't know about you guys. Jerry, Team Puffball always advocates wearing a PS2 jersey in any circumstance, as you can see.
Yes, absolutely.
But obviously, Yeah, well, it's really hard to make a bad decision with a jersey, especially if you got somebody who's on this current team. So yeah, but man, it feels good to go into this game confident, doesn't it, Jared? It's an interesting feeling that's kind of unfamiliar.
It is, and we love it here. I think the first time in 8 years, kind of we're going to snap the streak here, and it's just nice to be in a position where we can just enjoy Broncos football in December, and just be able to watch a game and be like, hey, this means something. It's not just a hey, hopefully we can take the reins out of somebody else going into the playoffs, but it's us. So for the Colts inactives, I just want to bring this back to this. So it looks like Mo Alley Cox is active, even though he was questionable for the game. Same with Josh Downs. He was originally questionable for the game with a shoulder injury, but he is active. And then the defensive end, Tyquan Lewis, had a rib injury. He's active for this as well. So the only ones you talked about, Antonio Mafi, their guard, and then the rest of them are kind of like backups anyway. So it looks like they have a pretty decently healthy team going into this game.
Yeah, interesting. But man, let's talk about the Broncos' health for a moment, because outside of Riley Moss, you did have Brandon Jones. I think that kind of went sneaky unnoticed in the second half of that Browns game. Brandon Jones had to sit. He had an abdominal injury, and he was limited for the first 2 days of practice this week, coming off the bye. But he was able to go upgrade to full practice on Friday, and he's full go today. Other than he was the only other player on the injury report for the Broncos at all. Right. Even with the week 14 bye, which I hate, I think most people in Broncos country hated it at the start of the season. But now I think you've got this opportunity to say, man, we're super healthy going into these last 4 games. We just got the bye week. We get another mini bye coming up, and it's you're kind of in, I think, a decent position as far as rest and as far as closing out the end of your season here on a playoff run, right?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about the secondary. We talked about, obviously, normally in a normal situation where you have a lot of injured players, this week 14 bye is huge.
Yeah.
And it's super helpful. But we didn't. We had a couple people that need to kind of get banged up. Riley Moss, one of them, having that bye at that time means one extra week that he doesn't have to miss as far as game time, which is huge for us. But what I liked is, it's interesting, our secondary is the one that's struggling the most out of any of our injuries. You see anybody like Riley Moss, or even when Brandon Jones went out, those are 2 key players to our secondary.
Yeah.
And one of those 2 guys being out is tough. 2 of those guys being out, which you saw in the Browns game, was very, very difficult. So having that bye gets him back, which is super helpful for us. And we're going in playing strong football, playing much better football. And the other thing is, we're on the upswing. I don't think we're talking about this enough, right? We struggled early in the season because of a rookie quarterback, all the other things that you have going on. Even defensively, we're struggling a little bit. And then now you come up and we're in the upswing, and we're grooving, we're playing together, we're playing as a team, and everything's coming up, less penalties, right? We haven't seen an illegal man downfield in a while.
Right. Yeah.
Or illegal formation. I think we're still seeing every once in a while, but in general, I think everything's kind of like falling into place at the end of the season, exactly where it needs to be. And us being in the hunt, it's just super, super helpful.
Yeah.
So Houston has the ball, 2 minutes left. Miami only has 1 timeout left. It is 3rd and 8 for Houston. They get the first down. It's game over.
That's it. Okay. All right. We will keep an eye on that, guys, but we are rolling right along toward kickoff, about 20 minutes away, 25 minutes away from kickoff. Guys, leave your comments, leave your questions. Jared, is it time to plug our pluggables? I think it's time to let the people know how much content we have.
Yeah, let's do it. So we have obviously Tuesday nights are Bourbon Broncos No BS. That's our flagship show.
Flagship show.
Right there on Tuesday nights. Here on YouTube, Facebook, everywhere you get your podcasts, or everywhere you get your shows. Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. I don't know if we're on all those. We probably are.
We are.
We definitely have accounts for those ones. And then make sure you download the podcast, pregame and postgame podcasts. We get 2 podcasts a week. Kind of talking about what we saw in the game, and then talking about me and David and Spotty. We'll let you know what the upcoming game looks like for the next week. You can listen to it on your ride home or ride into work. And then obviously you're watching the Tailgate Talk, which is an hour before kickoff, just talking about what we can expect and getting excited, trying to get excited for the game. And then Halftime Hash, the original Halftime Hash here at Orange Weekly. We come on at halftime and take your questions, take your comments, and let's talk about what we saw in the first half, what we want to see different or more of the same in the second half. And we'll be here for that as well. So make sure you guys are hitting the subscribe button on all those things. And then if you haven't yet, make sure you guys go out and I'm going to probably disappear from my voice here. Yourself a little bit of a Broncos blend. Some of that Broncos blend bourbon whiskey from Breckenridge Distillery. Absolutely delicious stuff. That's what I'm drinking right now. And it's just some good stuff. It's really smooth, really good. And it's the official sponsor of the Denver Broncos there at Breckenridge Distillery.
Yeah, absolutely. We love the folks at Breckenridge Distillery. It's in my glass right now. Jared, this is the last of the bottle that you brought me, and I am just about to kick it off. So
nice.
I thought it was a really good way to ease into a Broncos game this afternoon.
It is. Also, that was a big bottle.
It was. Yeah, it was. Listen, it was 2 weeks ago, and to be fair, you and I did some damage to that bottle on that very first night. So
we did. Yeah,
man,
it's so smooth, it almost disappeared.
Yeah. Oh man, and guys, this has been an unprecedented season for the Bourbon Broncos and OBS show, the Orange Weekly show. We're up to 23,000 followers on Facebook. You guys have been absolutely killer about following us on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, all of our socials. We thank you so much. This is what we do for you. Like obviously it's for us, right? But we love having you guys come on. We love having your comments, your questions every single week. It means so much to us. Keep watching, because we are going to have information for you about our fan appreciation show very soon. That's going to be coming up toward the end of January. But thank you so much to all of you guys for watching, commenting, questioning, coming in every single week. It really means the world to us.
Absolutely. All right, so we're about 20-ish minutes from kickoff here, 25 minutes from kickoff. I think we can start getting into a little bit of our expectations for this game. Like, how do you see this game going? And then we'll get into our score predictions. I've seen some of you guys have already started posting your score predictions. I know a couple of you guys have. I think somebody said they have some people over. They want to get it in before they left. But make sure you guys are posting your score predictions as we get to that point. If you get it right, send us a screenshot of it. We'll send you something cool here from Orange Weekly. And if we get it right, it's just bragging rights for us. Yeah. That's really what it comes down to. Yeah. So let's start before we get into our score prediction, David. Are we expecting a slow start, or are we expecting another Cleveland Browns just super high scoring game?
I am more on the side of a high scoring game, and I think the Broncos do come out and start fast. I think they are going to score kind of right off the bat if they get the ball first. And I think it's going to kind of just keep going from there. I think they're going to be humming off offensively for most of the game. I will point out that although my score prediction last week was not correct in any way, I will also say that the amount of offensive points that the Broncos scored last week was exactly what I predicted. So I got that going for me, which is nice. I think that they are going to be able to kind of impose their will a little bit on this Colts defense. And I don't know, Jared, I think, Houston intercepts two.
I was going to wait for you to finish your thing. Houston intercepts two on the first drive, the first play after he gets back. It's a one play intercepted, deep right, intercepted by Stingley. And the Texans are now kneeling the ball. The game is over. Texans beat the Dolphins. Dolphins are now no longer a threat to the AFC playoff picture.
Absolutely right. Okay. Now back to what I was saying, Jared. I'm just going to throw my score prediction down. And guys, I know you've been kind of throwing them into the chat as we've gone along here, but feel free to throw them in again because we are about to give ours. So I do believe the Broncos win this game. I think they get 32-24 was, I believe, the score prediction I made in the pregame podcast. And I think that is what I'm sticking with.
Yeah, so I joked about in the pregame podcast. I always forget. I did write it down. I have it written down right here. So I think I'm going to stick with mine too. And I'm kind of on the other side of it. I think it's going to be a slow start to a game. I think we got the game in Cleveland. The game against Cleveland got a little bit out of hand. And I think, with the high scoring and the amount that they were throwing all over us, I don't see Anthony Richardson throwing over us like Jameis Winston did. I just don't see him getting the yards, getting the deep balls as well as he did. Great athlete, and he's still, I think, another quarterback that you have not seen his ultimate form, Anthony Richardson. Yeah. I think he's a very good quarterback and has a lot of chance in this league. But I just don't see it right now. And what I would like to see is us, take care of the ball defensively, offensively, take care of the the plays defensively, get a few punts, especially early, establish the run game. So I think it's going to start a little bit slower. And I think this game ends up being a 27-16 for the Broncos. The game is not really a question other than if anything, at the end of the game, they might score something in garbage time. But ultimately, I think that we have this game pretty handedly, as long as we don't give up some stupid crazy, and we do it once a year or once a week, I feel, some like crazy broken play where somebody falls down and the guy's wide open in the end zone or whatever the case may be. I think if we can control that, and we've been doing a better job this year, then that's the score, 27-16 for your Denver Broncos.
Now, guys, one last thing before we sign off and kind of give our final thoughts here. The uniform combination. I know it's this portion of the show that you are waiting for every single week. And this is why we keep it until the end of the show, guys. It's called production. We have the scoop from Mile High Mario himself. It is orange jersey, white pants, blue socks today, a combination they have not gone with at any point in the season so far. I think that's going to look kind of fresh. I'm excited for it. Jared, your thoughts on this obviously important issue?
I mean, yeah, important. Has there been any uniform combination that we've done multiple weeks?
I believe they've done orange, white, and white a couple of times.
Okay.
But yeah, I not many. No, they have really kind of done a good job of changing it up. I love that for us as fans and for the players, frankly.
Yeah, I think it's kind of cool. If anything, It's just kind of nice to see, like, hey, let's switch it up and see something new. And I'll be honest, at the beginning of the season, I saw the new uniforms. I was like, what is this? And then you see them out live. The new helmets have just been fire. Like, really nice. I love the new helmets. I think the new uniforms are nice. They look super smooth. I don't know. I'm excited. But also, like, don't care. Like, I don't think the difference between white and blue socks is going to make the difference for this game, but that's just me being like an analytical guy.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to some of your guys' score predictions. I'll have to scroll back up, but let's see. Michael says 33-17. You think it's going to just get taken away. Same with Anthony. 34-17, 35-21. Everyone thinks the Broncos are just going to end up taking this game away. Closer to mine, I said 27-16, 28-17 for Andrew. It's going to be a big Broncos win. 24-20, Jerry thinks it's going to be a little bit closer. And all touchdowns with a field goal in between there. And then, I'm going to scroll back up because I feel like there were some other ones up here. Give me a second. And then we go. Okay, 24-17, Christopher says before he had to take off because he's got people over. I get it.
Fair enough.
I've been there. It's going to be a big game. I'm excited for it. I think it's something that we, Gary with 24-10, another, decidedly win. If we can go out there and decidedly win this, it kind of takes away are the Broncos playoff ready concept. And I kind of want that to be the thing.
We could see the narrative really shift from are the Broncos playoff ready to could the Broncos be that team that you don't want to face in the playoffs? Could this Broncos be the squad that even against the Bills, you're like, that's not an easy out for anybody, right? We could see if the Broncos go out there and take care of business against the Colts today, go win against the Chargers next week, and go into their final two games with 10 wins already, then you have to see the narrative about the team change again, and that's going to be really interesting. But you got to win today first to make it happen.
You have to win today to make it happen. Agreed. Okay, let's we have about 15 minutes till kickoff. We're gonna do our final thoughts, get you guys a chance to go refill the drinks, get some snacks so we can watch the kickoff of this Denver Broncos, Indianapolis Colts visiting the Denver Broncos at Mile High. Final thoughts, David, what you got?
Man, I'm so juiced to see the Broncos in this position with a rookie quarterback. It's so interesting to me. And guys, I'm going to plug my own pluggable here. Check me out on the Sporting News. I dropped a couple of articles this week on there about the Denver Broncos. So definitely check me out there. But I do want to kind of go back to my idea of look at the process the Broncos have followed. And look at the way the Bears have kind of melted down by comparison this year with, the number one quarterback prospect, quote unquote, right? But they didn't get the coaching infrastructure in place first. They didn't get the organization ducks in a row first. And now they've got to go into an offseason to try and find the coach to fix their rookie quarterback or fix the offense around him, right? And that's always it feels like you're setting your quarterback back from the get-go, whereas the Broncos have the guy in place that's going to be their head coach for the next 10 years as long as he's succeeding. And he's that offensive mind. You're not going to be as affected by brain drain if your coaches get hired away, because the main guy is still there and he's there to coach your quarterback. And I am so excited for what that holds for the future. It's already paying dividends, as you see on the field. And I think it bodes well for the future of this franchise.
Yeah, you kind of said the best. I'm with you. The fact that we've built it the way that we have. Also, this is the first I'm hearing about it, and I'm your best friend. I don't like that.
Wow.
You need to send me those links. Send me those links so I can read them for you.
I got you.
It's cool. I mean, you can tell the fans first. That's fine. I get it. No, it's cool. No, you're fine. You're cool. You go. I do think that this is an interesting time in Denver Broncos history. Not making the playoffs in 8 years after a Super Bowl win is unprecedented. And we did it. And now we're going to come out and we're going to show that we have rebuilt a team from scratch. Especially, and there's so many caveats to this, and this is why I love sports and I love NFL. You have the Russell Wilson trade, where you trade away the farm for a guy that just didn't work out, right? And then you have the Sean Payton trade, where you trade another first-round pick, and now you're kind of setting yourself back. We set ourselves back, and it's cool to see this quickly. When at the beginning of the season, everybody said, this is a rebuild season. We're okay not making the playoffs. This is probably the first year that we're like, good, guys, we're okay. If we don't make the playoffs, it is fine. We can be okay. And here we are being successful. And like I said, I think that's a big, shout out to the coach, shout out to the coaching staff and the front office, and having an owner again is super nice. Just being able to like, hey, let's start from scratch. Let's do this the right way. We have our coach. We have our quarterback. Now we can build around that and build forward. And we have a winning coach. That's the other big piece of this. We have a guy who knows how to win football games. And we have a quarterback who has now proven this year he knows how to win football games. If the ball is given to him to go win a football game, he can do it. It's not one of those where we're down, we have the ball, we have a chance, but I don't trust the guy. And that's just such a good place to be. And I think that's going to just continue to show dividends, not just this year, but for the long term. And it's a great time to be a Broncos fan. It's a great time to be part of Broncos country. And I'm glad that we're here with us. I'm glad that you guys are here with us to enjoy this moment as we go forward. But it starts every single week. And so that's the other thing. I'm sorry. My original final thoughts get taken away because you talked.
Sorry. You know how I do.
One of the cool things is if you watch the interviews of the players this week, all of them, everybody is asking about playoffs, right? All the media, hey, what do you think? Like, you guys are, 75% chance to make the playoffs. How do you guys feel? And every single person on that team is saying the exact same thing. Every single player on that team is saying the exact same thing. Yes, we know the stats. We know the numbers. I'm not going to say I'm ignorant to that. But it's about next week. And then it's about the week after. And then it's about the week after, which means you have a culture of people who understand the messaging.
Yeah.
And that is beat the next team and the cards will fall, right? And you keep playing that the entire way. That's what good teams do. They don't get hyped up into what we're hyped up about, right? The playoffs and the numbers and all that. They get hyped up into what do we need to do to beat the next team? What do we need to do to beat the Colts? What do we need to do to beat the Bengals? What do we need to beat the Chargers? And every single week they keep doing that. And that's how we got into this position where we are now, where we're winning games, because we're focused on winning single games, not winning the big piece.
Beautiful. Couldn't have said it better.
All right. Well, I appreciate you guys. Andrew, kind of what we were saying, even though I missed our old Broncos team that won Super Bowl 50, super excited to see what this team has in store for years to come. Yeah, I think we have nobody left on our team that was on Super Bowl 50.
Nope.
And it's a new era, and that's fine. And love our Super Bowl 50 team. Love every single person on that team. But it's time for a new reign, and I think it starts this year. And we're watching it live. You guys are joining us, and I appreciate that. But all right, guys, 10 minutes till kickoff. We're going to go ahead and sign off. Make sure you guys go grab some snacks. Make sure you guys are tuning into the game. And we'll be back here at halftime to talk about everything we saw and what you guys saw in the first half, and move on. And hopefully we end up with the W, and we go into Victory Monday. But other than that, David, you got anything else to say?
I've got nothing, Jared. I think there's nothing else to do but end it, as we always do, on a very strong Go Broncos.
Thanks for joining us, guys. Have a good one.
Do what I like, yeah, I do what I like, yeah, I do what I like. Sipping and go, sip is right, and I go with the flow. Yeah, I go with the flow. Yeah, I go with the flow. Cause I know I'm the show. In the zone, here I go. In the zone, here I go. In the zone, here I go. Yeah, they know